Okay, this video was a request on one of the defensive operations videos. The request was, how do you do a defense in restricted terrain? Examples: mountains, forests, and swamps. That's actually pretty easy. I actually have more experience doing that than I do doing defenses in open terrain. Open terrain would be your deserts, your plains, and that type of stuff. So we're dealing with areas here where there's not much room for maneuverability for vehicles. Now, that restriction does not necessarily apply to infantry, so a lot of people will call this a light infantry terrain. Now, what I decided to do here, I went back to my little kick around example that I use once in a while, and we'll go to the Green Mountain Militia, go back to the base camp videos to the Greenbrier Camp, which is located up here. This is a former small community that has been abandoned for decades, that was found by members of the militia when they were scouting out their area of operations before the war. Decided this would be a good location for a possible base camp if something would to occur. They improved the area, they cached in some supplies. Now we are in mountainous terrain through here. It goes up like that, so we're moving up the mountain, with Greenbrier Mountain being over there. That's our major terrain feature for this area. Now over here we have a forward operating base that the enemy has set up right next to the town of Cooterville. Cooterville is located on a river here. We have some streams and stuff, or you could consider them small rivers coming down from the mountain. We have a small body of water here, a small pond, mini lake, whatever you want to think of it as, where the water collects before it shoots through this narrow passage here down to the river. We have Hardball Highway here. We have Hardball secondary roads over here. They are concrete over here, asphalt over here. We have dirt roads which will flank off of this all through here, but we're not too worried about that. Up in here we have dirt road, goes into this open area here, which can be used as a helicopter landing zone, so we refer to that as LZ South. We have another open area up here that could be used as a potential landing zone with a dirt road that comes off of this secondary road into there. We refer to that as LZ North. There is a hardly used trail, a very overgrown road that goes from LZ South, generally up the hill here, to the Greenbrier Camp. There's another trail that falls along the ridge line. Now you may have noticed I have LPOPs and OPs set up. The ones over here are manned by the militia. The ones over here you see are marked as MAs. Those are manned by members of the militia auxiliary element that supports this militia. On top of this hill here, we have an observation post set up there. They are basically air guard. They keep watch on the air traffic coming in and out of this forward operating base. It's manned by members of the militia auxiliary that live on the sides of this hill. We have another militia auxiliary LPOP down here The LP part, the listening post part, primarily is people that we have that work on the forward operating base, and also in the community here that listen to the talk of the enemy troops when they're in the town. Like when they're visiting the bar, when they're going to, I just gotta throw this out there, going to Daisy's Spa downtown. If you're an engineer, you know what I'm talking about. And we have our OP part, which is watching the traffic on these roads. Now, talk that we have intercepted is there is going to be a major sweep operation that will occur east of this secondary road over here. Because they know that we're operating up in here somewhere. They know there has to be some type of base camp up in there. They just do not know where. The Militia Auxiliary sent the information to the Tactical Operations Center, the headquarters for the militia, and we've been preparing. We do not know when the operation is going to be launched, but we know that it is supposed to be within the next month. So we've been preparing accordingly. Our LPOP down here, which is basically spread out in this entire area, if they see traffic starting to head down this road, especially multiple vehicle traffic, especially combat vehicles, your infantry fighting vehicles, your wheeled armored personnel carriers and all that stuff, your gun trucks, they will send the word up as quick as possible. And then the initial obstacles and that stuff, the plan that we have, will be launched in here first. That's priority. Now, LPOPs and that we have manned by the militia. We have an observation post up here, which is another air guard post. They keep watch on air traffic that may sneak in this way or over this mountain area here, coming into LZ North. This LZ is covered really good with observation from this point here. But we also have LPOPs that we man, which are permanently dug in. They were put in before the war because as part of the defensive for Greenbrier Camp, they are occupied as needed. If we're occupying Greenbrier Camp, they get occupied by a fire team each. We have LPOP here, which watches this bridge. They're also watching the water here to see if anyone tries coming up in boats. We have an LPOP here, which watches this intersection to see if anyone comes up secondary road from this way. Anyone comes in from the west, from the forward operating base. They also keep an eye on the LZ in there in case anyone tries sneaking up going this way and landing in there. We also have a few LPOPs which are smaller two-man ones which are located closer to our base camp. Now when we start doing our priorities of work for this defensive operation, first ones that we make sure that get set up or put in place will be on this road here. Because if we can slow them in here, stop them in here, that gives us more time back here for doing stuff. Now think of defenses and restrictive terrain as being a series of ambushes, reinforced with point obstacles and hasty obstacles. Now you're probably wondering, well, what's the difference? Your standard obstacle has set dimensions. It's supposed to be X number of hundreds of meters of concertina wire or barbed wire. It's supposed to be a set package on a minefield. I do not have my reference with me right now. I think it's 250 meters wide by 100 deep. Typically more. But that's the general package. Anything that's below those falls into the point obstacle category. Point obstacles, you're just trying to close off a small area. And hasty obstacles are obstacles you put in with what's available to you at that moment. Typically what's around you in that location, but it'll also be whatever you carry with you normally on your vehicle or on you as a person. Now, because this secondary road gets used by the people that live in here and we want to keep them friendly to us, we can't put in an obstacle on this road slowing the traffic, which would tip off the enemy that we know what's coming. And we can't block it off because that'll just turn the locals against us. So what we're going to do, we're going to have a fire team that's going to move up into here somewhere, and we're going to give them materials to put in an abattis, because of this entire area is wooded. It's not just around these LZs. But we're going to drop trees along the roadway here for about 50 to 100 meters. So that team already has the explosives already calculated and located semi-close to those trees that are going to be blown. We have not put the explosives on the trees because it could be seen by anyone that's traveling on the road. So we will have them cached nearby. We will have some of the team that will be on this side, some of the team that will be on this side, but they will be in constant visual sight of each other. When we get the word from the militia LPOP down here that the enemy's launching the operation, they will quickly put in those packs, get them tied in on each tree, connect them into the line main, which is already laid out on each side, get it hooked up with the initiation system. They will then blow the abattis, dropping it across the roadway. They will then haul rear as fast as possible up to this LPOP. It could be they jump into a small truck they have camouflaged, maybe they're jumping onto dirt bikes, or maybe they're just hoofing it with their LPCs, their leather personnel carriers. But they get up into here so that they can assist the team that's located here. Now, this bridge will already have been wired up for demolition, which is controlled by this LPOP, and they have been given the criteria when to set it off. This bridge up here has also been wired in, controlled by this LPOP. Now, the enemy comes through here, they hit that abattis, it's going to take them a little bit of time to cut their way through. That gives us more time back in here. Now, we've put in on this roadway here, in case they try coming up this way, we put in a couple shape charges buried in the ground facing up. These shape charges are homemade using very, very little metal that could be detected by a Husky type mine detection system, or a older version, the Meerkat. And yes, the Russians have their own produced version of this stuff, and so do the Chinese. So we have those located in there for stopping any armored vehicles that could potentially come up. Now, to make sure no one comes in from this direction down here, when these guys get up here to this LPOP, they're going to move down this roadway to a point where we have cached some materials for putting in a road crater, or another point obstacle. They set off their shape charges, blow the holes in the road, clean them out, drop into cratering charges, and then they put in rogue crater down in here, causing problems on that direction. We're blocking off that high-speed avenue of approach. Now we will set up ambushes through this area also, which will be launched out of the defense force that's up at the Greenbrier camp. Typically we're looking at squad size and below. We're not going to commit a full platoon in one location. We will keep roughly a platoon's worth of personnel in reserve, and a lot of that will be made up of headquarters personnel and the recruits. Now we've pushed out our heavy weapons, 50 calibers and that stuff, that were being held back at the Greenbrier camp in defense. We've pushed them forward. We've located one overwatching LZ North, one overwatching LZ South. Now we've dug in positions in here and in here. We've put in some covered trench, which is about a meter and a half tall, that a person can crawl through quickly. We have the 50 caliber position, which is set up. It's covered with a log cover, which is camouflaged. We have the covered trench, which has a little bit thicker overhead material over the top of that. That overhead trench leads to a smaller two-man machine gun position where we will locate a M240 machine gun. We've also located in this area one here, captured man-pad surface-to-air missiles. Since we're going with US stuff, we'll say they're captured Stingers, one each. Now, if the enemy's trying to catch us quickly, they'll probably send in a Chinook where they can drop the maximum amount of troops as possible. Otherwise, it'll be a quick series of Black Hawk helicopters coming in. Now, since they know this is enemy territory, if they do not have artillery that can be dropped in on those LZs as preparatory fires before the landing, they will send forward typically 2 Apache gunships. Those Apaches will come in and they will light up anything that's suspicious in here using 2.75 inch rockets and their 20mm chain gun cannons. So after they've come in, they've peppered the area. We know that the helicopters are coming in. The Apaches are circling. We throw off the covers on the positions, on the 240 position and the 50 cal position as we see the cargo helicopters coming in, those transports. Those, the 50 cal will begin engaging the Apaches. You're not going to do a lot of damage on them. You're just trying to scare them off, scare them away, try to get them to keep maneuvering so they cannot pour down fire on you. Your M240 will open up on the transports that are coming in while they're in the air as they're coming down. Now, our man pads, our Stingers, use it against the most valuable target. If they're bringing in a Chinook, that Chinook is loaded with infantry. So if you take that out, you're taking a lot of pieces off the enemy's board. So that's your first priority. Behind that, you're going to use that to try to take out one of the Apaches that's not really looking at what it's doing. They will have sensors to detect the launch of surface-to-air missiles. They will be able to detect the rangefinders and guidance systems, all that stuff on it. Whatever active signals that are put out by the missile. and they will launch countermeasures accordingly. But you're trying to keep them from landing their troops in these LZs. Maybe get them to switch to another location. It'll be the same up here. Maybe we can get them to wave off the air assault completely. So we got the heavy convoy that's coming in this way. We had a couple air assaults, or at least one air assault that tried coming in to LZ South. No one has launched into LZ North yet, so that might be the alternate. We've put out enough fire down here that the enemy is shifting locations, so they're going up to LZ North. Now, when they get up to LZ North, they will be engaged by the positions up there. And then when they're also getting engaged in here, if we got any other 50s that are still located up around the assembly area up there, we might have them engaged also, possibly. But we're still trying to keep the enemy from knowing that, hey, that's for sure where we're at. The enemy gets through the abatis, they're coming up. We know that they know we're in here, so they're going to try pushing their armor up this dirt road to at least get up into this location. When they come up over the top of those shape charges, set them off directly underneath the vehicle, dead center. So the furthest one out, when the lead vehicle gets over the top of that one, you set it off. At that point, these guys back here might try backing up a little, so make sure there's some good spacing between those two shape charges. When you got a vehicle directly over the top of that second shape charge, you set that off, and now you've created two obstacles. You've taken out two, we'll call them Bradley fighting vehicles, right in the middle of this little dirt road here. They're not going to be able to maneuver with that armor until they get those pulled out of there. The infantry will dismount and they will start moving through the area. Possibly when they start moving through the area, maybe we'll have some anti-personnel mines set up in some point minefields to try to draw them into that. Maybe we'll have a fire team or two which will keep a running gun battle going there, try to draw them into those anti-personnel minefields. Move it as fire teams or buddy teams, two people firing, getting the enemy drawn towards them. Then the other team goes off while the first team relocates. You just keep leapfrogging back and forth, drawing the enemy in, kind of your baited ambush. Now some of them, if they're smart, instead of trying to just go this way, they'll go this way to try to come up this direction. So be prepared to have personnel also operating down in here, which will probably be mobile. They'll move from one location to another. That'll probably be by squad. They get in, set in their hasty ambush, chew up the enemy, break contact, move back to another location, set up and keep doing the same thing. Ambush after ambush, series of ambushes. You're trying to slow them down. While this is going on, the assembly area will be getting broken down if you have not already done it. Key personnel that do not have to be part of the fight are moving out of the area, along with any critical weapon systems and supplies. Keeping the bare minimum what we need up in here to support this fight. We're not going to stop the enemy. They will sooner or later capture this terrain, but we're going to make them pay for every inch of it. And we're always trying to make sure to stay one step ahead of them, that we do not get decisively engaged. Your ambush after ambush, your series of ambushes, reinforced with the occasional hasty and point obstacle. Now if these guys finally do get through here, maybe they push the Bradleys off to the side, they get up in here, they deploy in here. This route in here is too clogged with trees, too rutted and that stuff for them to continue on, they'll continue on foot. Well, as they're moving up the trail along the sides and that stuff, they'll be hitting booby traps that we have set up on the way as our team that was in here is pulling out. The 50 cal that was in there, as soon as the enemy's out of the area, the helicopters have left, you break down that 50 and that 50 cal team gets that bastard run up the hill as fast as possible to get to their evac. Get it to their cart to get out of there, move it to a different location, whatever you decide. If you do not use the Stinger, I would pull that out of there also. The 240, you can use that, the two-man team, as kind of a rear guard as you're pulling out. So, but remember, as soon as you opened up down in here, those positions are known, they're noted, and possibly will be taking indirect fires if they have it in the area. Which it's always possible. You could have Bradleys coming up this way. They might have a couple mortar vehicles with them. They get the coordinates for the general area where your position was. They use GPS, figure the stuff out, and they start popping in mortars right on top of you. So that just gives you somewhat of an idea on how you can do this. It's a lot simpler than what you think. Most of the stuff I put out in videos is designed for this. It's designed for hasty situations. It's designed for point obstacle situations. It's designed for a small scale defense. So I think that gives you a pretty good idea. If you got any other questions on this, post them in the comments if you think I missed anything or you want me to flesh something out a little bit more. Now, for all my engineer brothers in the Patriot Militia movements, always remember, essayons.